All right, everybody, I've started the recording. This is our August 5th cataloging committee meeting. And the first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from our June 3rd meeting. At first, I'll call for corrections or omissions that anybody noticed or concerns. Does anybody have any of those?
They look good to me.
I move that we accept them as presented.
All righty, do we have a second?
I can second. This is Beth.
Beth seconds, and I believe it was Dia that moved. So if we have any objections to approving the minutes, please type in the chat nay or say nay. Otherwise, I will accept your silence as ayes. I don't know if that's legal, but I can have everybody aye at me at the same time. Here, we got a few in the chat there. I don't see any nays yet. I don't hear any nays, so motion carries and we approve the minutes. Okay, next item on the agenda, we're going to talk about series for a second. As if we haven't been talking about series for the past couple of months. I put numeration issues because with our last batch of authorities, we've noticed some irregularities, and I was going to pull up an example that I could find. I'm thinking Walt Longmire. I believe, and I just kind of wanted to show you an example of something you might encounter. And that is that we're losing series numeration or duplicating series numeration, I believe. Let me just pull one up here and see. Of course, these, yeah. So you see here on the result page, series Walt Longmire Mystery. And as we go down here, we can see that we have the series title. I'm going to open up the record here. Series title, but we don't have the numeration. And Heather had noticed this on a couple of items, a couple of different series, this just being one. Mystery, Walt Longmire Mystery 1, Mystery 14, 13. Let's take a look and see what this looks like. That looks right.
So, John, I tried to fix a lot of these, but if somebody still sees some in the catalog, that'll be a good opportunity to fill out the new form that we have.
Okay, what's wrong with this, folks? Is this book 14 or is this book 15?
Oh boy.
I had not anticipated this. Go ahead.
Is it a different numeration? Go ahead.
Right. Different numeration in differences, and usually good reads and fantastic fiction may agree. Amazon may have something separate, and novel list, I'm sure, has its own listing. So some of these series, especially this.
So what I could gather from that, Lori, we're having a really tough connection with your audio. She was just pointing out that these resources sometimes have different numeration.
Yeah.
Now, my question is whether or not this is should be the approved practice in this case. As if you're the patron and you see that, you go, what in the world is going on? Now, as I seem to recall with this particular series, I don't know which resource changed, but I think, well, let me look at Fantastic Fiction. I think somebody changed, sorry, Johnson. What? No, what this was, oh, no, that's my other example. Depth of winter, it's either 14 or 15, right? So let's see, Fantastic Fiction has it as number 14. Oh, I keep confusing myself. Sorry, folks. Yeah, so I think Fantastic Fiction had this at 15 at one point, and then they changed it, and now it's 14. So I'm not saying I need to do this right now, but I think we can safely say that we could change this to standardize to 14. It might be worth a look through this particular series and see if we can't correct some of these numeration issues. Now, that means, of course, that if your library has depth of winter as number 15 on the spine label, that means that that's going to not correspond with the record. But it's nothing new that authorities sometimes change their authority information. And so in that case, you're going to have a discrepancy. Does everybody see that?
Yeah, hopefully those cases are rare.
Yes. That was not the particular problem that I was trying to bring up, though, but as Beth said, that she had been fixing some of them. And the problem that I had been encountering, and some other folks probably had too, is that upon the import, we had been seeing duplicate subfield V's. And you may, in your searching, might see that occasionally from time to time. So you'll see the author information in the 800 field or the 830 field, as it may be. And then the subfield T with the series title, semicolon, and then duplicate subfield V's. And were we ever able to figure out why that was happening, or it was just, okay, well, we're not really sure why this is happening, so we'll just fix them on a case-by-case basis as we see them, Beth, or do you recall?
I believe, John, that it was a side effect of the automatic authority processing. So when I was adding new authority records and it was updating the bibs automatically, it did not update them well, causing some duplication. I've seen some duplication in some subject headings as well. Mm-hmm. So I've been addressing those, as well as the duplicate subfield 0 fields. So anyway, working on all those cleanup issues that were a result of the automatic authority processing. So there's not gremlins in the system. It was caused by a process.
Mm-hmm. And that is a perfect segue to a new resource that Beth has been working on that I'll introduce to you all if you haven't seen it yet. And we now have a feedback portal of sorts for some of these problem series. And as I recall from your email, Beth, it is on the main cataloging page, right? Right here. So you see how I got there, everybody. It's just this main cataloging heading here. And it's the series problem form right here in nice big bold letters so everybody can see it. Looks like this if you haven't seen it before. And what we are looking for by adding this is we want to know about these series problems when they happen in the catalog. So if you encounter a problem in a record that you believe that you are unable to fix or am not sure how to fix it, this is one avenue that's available to you to let the mentors know about a problem series that needs to be fixed. We would encourage you, if you see something that is easily fixable, you know what I mean? Maybe there's you see a colon where there should be a semicolon, for example, or something like that. This is not what that's what this form is not for those type of problems. This is for something that you feel you are not able to fix yourself. If you see a small problem like that that you can fix and be done with it, great. But if we start seeing huge numeration conflicts, for example, or series title conflicts, authority conflicts, those types of things, this is what this is for. Let us know all of these fields, if you would, what the series title is, a short description. If you can give us the database ID or the TCN number, does everybody know how to find that? Up here in a record, the database ID and the TCN number right here, that helps us find it much faster. Or if, you know, there you could put author title. Oh, I'm sorry, here it is down here, author title or database ID. Did we mean TCN or database ID? I'm not sure. This seems like duplicate information to me, but
It does seem like duplicate information, and I can change that. What I can do is we can have the author title in the example area and the database ID or TCN down below.
sounds great. Yeah, that would be perfect. And then that information can get out to us. And so we can take a look at it and see what's happening there. So please, as you go along adding items in your collections to established series, if you start seeing things, please remember that this is here available to you, and make use of it so that we can make the catalog as a whole better for everybody. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Anything that needs clarifying about anything we've talked about so far, series-wise, numeration, or problem form, or anything that seems unclear? Going once, going twice, hearing nothing. Sounds like everything was perfectly clear. Let's move on to library of things. You may not have a library of things in your library's collection, but more and more libraries are starting to have these. What in the world is a library of things? Well, it's going to be different for every library, but generally speaking, a library of things is a specific collection or shelving location of objects or artifacts or realia or something that doesn't really fit into our other shelving locations. It's not really a catch-all, but kind of is. Just to give you an example, in our library of things in the Baker County Library District collection, we have a turntable that you can hook up to your computer via USB and digitize your old records, for example. And then we have a Frisbee golf disc set in our library of things, and we have a telescope in our library of things. Just to kind of give you an idea of what in the world that is. And so the challenge is for us, well, how are we supposed to catalog this group of items in our collections. Is there any way we can get any kind of standardization for Library of Things? And let me show you what we've added in the 999 field. Actually, we haven't really added it as much as we haven't taken it away. Many of you probably remember not too long ago when not only did we do subfield E, but we did subfield F as well in the 999 form. Tracy says she lost my voice. Is anybody else having problems with my audio? Please type in the chat and let me know if I'm talking to dead air. Go ahead, Beth.
I can hear you, and okay. Tracy says she can hear you now too.
Okay, good. Good. Let me give you an example of this 999 subfield F LOT is what that is. Let me look up, for example, we were looking at, let's see, search the catalog. Here's where I want to go. Go ahead, Beth.
Oh, I was just going to say you could, you wouldn't even have to key anything in if you just wanted to leave that blank and then go down to Library of Things.
Here it is.
Click on that.
It's in item type. Does everybody see how I got there? Item type, Library of Things.
And then click search.
And it will pull up everything. Now this directly correlates to this subfield F999, right, Beth?
Yes, it does.
Yes, okay. So you can see we have 14 items that come in the search results, and most of them are probably going to be from Hood River's Library of Things. You can see here that it is their shelving. Not only is it their shelving location, but it also is in their item type. And that is because, here, let me go look in the MARC edit here so you can kind of see. As we go down to 999, they have this particular piece of equipment listed as equipment and kit. And here's the subfield F LOT, which stands for Library of Things, which puts it in that particular index. Let me go look at another one just for grins. Okay, help me out, folks. Just out of my own curiosity, do you pronounce that mandolin, like the instrument?
I have. I don't know what everybody else is thinking.
Mandolin slicer set. I'm just curious. I have no idea what this thing is. I suppose I could read the summary. Slices fruits, vegetables, and more. Okay, well, there you go. If you would like to go check it out, remember, though, that you can only pick it up at the Hood River branch. Just for your own information. Let's go back to our search results. Let's see what other types of things we have in here. Vacuum sealer, canning kit, food processor, fermentation, deluxe cherry pitter. So everything so far, we have not added our Library of Things with this subfield F index. That's on the to-do list. John says, that's how I've always heard it said. Okay. Because when I hear mandolin, I think a stringed instrument. I don't know about you guys.
Well, I have watched cooking shows in the past where they've used them, and that's how they've always said it. So.
Okay. It's not mandoline.
No.
See, the things that you learn here in cataloging committee meetings. Anyway, is that clear? Does everybody see the use of that particular index, how we're co-opting what we used to use in subfield F, and we've kind of, since that functionality is still there, we decided to go ahead and use it for Library of Things. Let me go back to that advanced search page. It's under, okay, now Beth, this is interesting. If I go back, here it is under format. Is this the same list as item type? Because it's an item type here, Library of Things. but here it's under format. This is all item types, right? Or is this 999?
I think it's the same. I think it's the label is just different.
Okay, all right. I'm just making sure I wasn't losing my mind here. Okay, so and as we go along, we're going to have discussions on other types of criteria that we would like to standardize as much as we can. We realize that these library of things collections are going to be vastly different, and each library's needs are going to be different as far as how they circulate and all of that stuff, and probably the types of information we would want in the record as well. But as we go along, we're going to try and see if we can't come up with some guidelines so we can get some kind of standardization as more and more libraries include these types of items in their collections. But Heather says a lot of the library of things or items like that generally are only checkoutable from the library that has them. Right. We don't want these things being sent all across our SAGE system. We probably don't even want them sent across library districts. I know that well, Heather, do we do that with our Frisbee golf set? Do we send them to branches or do they stay here?
No, they really are only available in Baker.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. Any questions, clarifications with Library of Things, at least as much as we've presented today with Library of Things? Concerns, revelations, visions? Don't hear anything so far. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and move on to web client. And we looked last time at item templates, but there was one other thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to item templates, and there was something I wanted to change in mine. As a matter of fact, let me just go. I can close Craig Johnson. Let me, I think this is the record I want to look at. This is also an example that I'm going to use later on for MARC 534, but let me go, well, let me back up a step. For those of you that haven't been using the web client, these tabs right here don't exactly correspond, but loosely correspond to the menu in the staff client that you would have over here that would say actions for this record. I think that's what it said, actions for this record, and you'd pull up a menu, and that's how you would get to MARC edit or holdings maintenance, which is now called holdings view or holds or whatever. So I'm going to go over here to holdings view, which is kind of similar to holdings maintenance, a little different. And I'm going to select our item, and I'm going to use my right-click contextual menu, which is also the same as this actions menu over here. And I'm going to go down. It would be nice if this wasn't limited to this space. I don't know why this doesn't come down further, but that might be a future implementation that would be nice instead of having to scroll down here. But I'm going to go down here to edit, and I've got a couple of different edit options. I am going to go volumes and copies. By default, when I edit, we used to go edit item attributes, right? One of the nice things about the web client is now we can edit volume information and copy information or item information at the same time. We go volumes and copies, and we pull this up here. Okay, now this looks different. As you can tell, I'm going to make this full screen for a second. This is vaguely familiar to our item attributes. Down here, they're just ordered differently, and they look a little differently. Up here is our volume information. So at the same time, I can edit how many volumes, I can add volumes, I can add copies, I can change call numbers, barcodes, parts, all of that, which is great. It's very helpful. If I'm going to add a copy, for example, and I'd put the barcode in here, and that'd be copy number 2, for example. Look what happens over here. Over here, I can now choose which items that I want to edit. So if I just want to edit the new copy, I can uncheck this, and then I can apply my template, change whatever items I want, and then I can save that particular item, or I can save all of them together. Just to give you an idea here, I'm going to take that away, and hopefully it won't take away. Yes, okay, good. Now, if some of you have noticed, let me add that back for just a second. If you've noticed, if you've been working on the web client and see that these 2 items are grayed out here, let me uncheck this for a second. Say I wanted to make this item new. Okay, and I'm going to go over here. We talked about templates last time, how to edit your templates. Just as a reminder, it's up here, copy templates. And I'm going to go here, and I'm going to use my nonfiction new template, and I'm going to apply it. As Dia pointed out last time, sometimes these fields don't populate when they should, so please double check that. It looks like all of these have populated at least the way I have them, and I'd enter pricing information here. Let's say it's $10. But now look over here. You notice that I still can't save this. These are grayed out right here. I'll take this opportunity to show you why and introduce this new statistical category that is that Beth implemented that we want to start putting into our items. Notice here I'm at the district level. I'm going to open this up to Sage. And I now have this new stats checkout category here that's at the Sage level and not at the district level. And this is for Beth to gather some information for her annual reports, right?
That is correct,
Okay.
yes. In the past, I've just had to rely on shelving locations for these statistics, and sometimes that's not as specific as I feel we would like to get on some of those checkout statistics. So that's why this new category was introduced.
So I'm going to go here and select adult. Okay. And these are still grayed out probably because I don't have a barcode, right? Let me do this. Okay, now I'm not going to save it, but as you can see here now, my save and exit options are available to me. Okay. And I'm also going to take this opportunity to upgrade or to update my templates so that I don't have to do that every time. I've been doing that, every time this week just so I could wait till now to fix it. So I'm going to go to copy templates and I'm going to select my new nonfiction template. I'm going to apply. And then I'm going to go over here to Sage and I'm going to make it default to adult. I have to realize, of course, that when I change all of these other templates for Jays or young adults or whatever other, that I select the appropriate the right statistic here in this category. So for here, we're going to go adult, and I'm going to save this. And with any luck, when I do any more new nonfiction, I will not have to mess with that again. Okay, that was kind of a lot of information. Does anybody want me to go through anything again or have any questions? Was anything unclear? Anything at all? I don't think so, which is good. Let me go back over here. I covered that and how to change your item template. Oh, that reminds me, I got to go through all those templates and change that. Thank you, Beth. No, that's all right. That won't take much time at all.
There's no easy way to make big changes like that, but it'll make a big difference when I go to pull statistics.
That's okay. It's something rather small, I think. It's not like we're instituting the great leap forward here or anything. So, okay, let's move on to cataloging module display. I'm going to show you something with this particular example that I pulled up here. Let me close that. Yes, I want to leave. Some of you may have noticed that in my cataloging module here in the web client, I choose to stack my subfields like this. From what I understand, a lot of you don't do that. And watch when I uncheck this. This may look more familiar to many of you if you have your fields horizontally as opposed to vertically like I do. I'm not sure why I do it the other way. I've just kind of gotten used to it. Looking that way, I don't know. This looks more convoluted to me, but I'm sure if I got used to doing it this way, then I would use it this way. But just oh, Jenny uses flat text too. Yeah, some of you may use this this way also. I've noticed that with the web client, and some of you may have noticed this too, some of your key commands are going to be a little bit different. And when you're maneuvering around, like for example, when I go over here to add a new ISBN, for example, and I do my Control D, I then need to tab down and put in my number. I wouldn't actually do this. I would make a new 020, but just so you see, and then tab back like that, and I'll delete that field. Sometimes if you're copying over information from WorldCat, for example, here, let me go. This isn't on the agenda, my apologies, folks, but it's something I wanted to go ahead and show you anyway. Let's see if this does this here with plain text. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to paste it there. And then I'm going to add my Control D. No, it doesn't do that, shoot. Sometimes when I do that with formatted text, for example, from WorldCat, it does something kind of strange, and I wanted you all to be prepared for that in case you encounter that. Let me grab it from WorldCat. Okay. So here's the ISBN from WorldCat. I'm going to delete this record, or this field, sorry. And I'm going to add a new 020. I'm going to tab over, and I'm going to enter in. Notice how that text is different? Because it's formatted text from WorldCat. It's not plain text. Now watch what happens. Watch, let's see if I do this. So I go to add my paperback information, and for some reason this jumps down here. I don't know if any of you have seen that before or not. It's a bug, I guess. So then I have to go back there.
I have seen that as well, John, and so sometimes I just switch over to flat text
and I don't
do it
blame
there
you.
for the cutting and pasting, and then it's less problematic.
Right, and I don't blame you, and some of you will see some other oddities like that, and so when you start seeing that, flat text might be a better option for you. If you're seeing some stuff like that and not sure why that's happening, I'm sure that's noticed across the board, and I'm sure they're working on that to fix that type of stuff. Let's see. Yeah, John says paste into Notepad to check for oddities and then into flat text. There is a key command to paste as flat text, as I understand. I believe it is. Let me see. I'm going to do that same copy and paste. I'm going to copy from WorldCat, so I'm copying formatted text. I believe if you hold down Shift, so I'm going to hold down, instead of just Control V paste, I'm going to hold down Control Shift V. Yeah, and then it pastes in as plain text. However, I don't know. Oh yeah, and so I add my subfield here, and then that doesn't happen. So that seems to be the case with formatted text, but not with plain text. So either way, if you want to hold down an extra key or paste it into Notepad, if you have a bunch of items, that may be one way to get around that. Okay. So we talked about that, stacked, unstacked. I'll add plain text in there because some of you like to do it that way. Now, the reason I brought up this particular example, if you haven't been using MARC 534 in your fields, or in your records, that is, or don't know what it is for information about prior publication. And so I brought up this example right here. This was the original record that I was working on this past week, and it's for this. Oh, actually, it's right here. This item right here. And I'm going to show you some things. I made some copies out of the book that I'll show you in a second. But this is the original record, and you can see here that this information was included right here, originally published 1931, but it's as a 500 general note. If that is what your practice has been, I'd like to encourage you to include that information in a 534 field. And let me pull up the book. Here's the book, and then here's the verso. Only Yesterday was originally published, Harper and Row, in 1931, and there have been a couple of other editions published. 64, 2000, 2010. Actually, the record I was working on, nothing changed between 2000 and 2010 besides the cover art. So this is actually a misnomer here. This is not actually a new edition. So I had to change that, but that's not the reason I brought up this example. The reason I brought up this example is because you're going to use this information here, and instead of putting it in a 500 note there, let me pull up 534 here. Right there. Oops, I did not put that in the right order, did I? 534, the description says original version notes. So this information is going to describe the original version. And the two subfields you're going to use most often are subfield P, which is an introductory phrase, originally published. Oftentimes in the book you'll see first published. This term is a little bit more clear because sometimes first published can be first published here, first published in this country, first published with this publisher, which doesn't really mean first published, right? It means originally published. If you see those types of notes, first published here, first published there, then you would use the term previously published. So it doesn't technically mean originally published, but subfield P, originally published. Notice the colon is not like that as we're accustomed to seeing. Why is that? I don't know. And then subfield C has the publisher information. New York, Harper and Row, 1931. Sometimes, especially if you're seeing a different language, you may see this, originally published as, and then you would have a subfield T for title, as the title might actually be different. And so that's where you would enter in the title information. So you may see some cases where you include the title as well. And let me delete that field out of there. Is that clear? Any questions on that? Anybody? I've seen some records. Oh yeah, Shift Control V. I've seen some records where folks have been using that, and that's great. So I would encourage you to continue to use that. If you
John,
have,
you might explain
yes.
why you would do this as opposed to a 500?
Well, first of all, it's correct practice. Second of all, let's look and see what it looks like differently in the catalog, because we do have a different header. See here, we do have this original version note header as opposed to a general note. And so it's going to be, there is a specific place, a specific order. I guess these are just numerically placed, aren't they, for this particular type of note.
But it also helps it not to be buried in, also with the general notes.
Yes, yes it does. And what we want to do is, general note is kind of the miscellaneous catch-all. We couldn't really find a place that's appropriate for this information, so we put it in general note, right? And so if there is an appropriate place for it, there is a MARC field specifically created for this particular information. We do want to put it there and use that instead of, as Dia says, cluttering up the general notes, so we don't get 5 general notes that include information that are more appropriate elsewhere.
This is great information. Thanks, John.
Sure. And I'm trying to think of, just off the top of my head, any other 500 notes that I often see as, okay. Now I just saw this. Remember I was talking about how the 2010 was not a new edition? There are 2 ways to do this. I'm not going to go into the more complicated way to do this, which is adding it as an other edition entry in the 700 fields. You may have seen, have you seen where it says online version, for example? You'll see it down here in 775, I think, or 776. I'm not sure which one it is.
I think it's 776.
Is it 776? Where you'll have other edition information as an entry. And so you might see online version there. You might see reprints there. But since this isn't an actual technical other edition, I put it here in the 500 field, reprinted 2010, First Harper Perennial Modern Classics Edition in quotes, because that's actually what it says in the book, even though that's not what it is. So that's what that is, in case you were wondering. Any other 500s that we would often put in? Language note 546. Sometimes I see that translated from particular language in 500 when it should be here in 546. From time to time in these cataloging meetings, maybe we'll highlight one of those and bring those to your attention as we go along. So that's 534. Any other questions about 534? What is the technical term for it? Original version? Original version note is what that is. Okay, so we got through there, and it is 48 minutes after the hour, and so I wanted to leave a little bit of time towards the end of our meeting just to let anybody, really kind of open forum. I'd like to continue this practice in our cataloging meetings for folks who have noticed oddities or things that they had questions about or concerns about, or to request any particular training topics. I know that Beth had mentioned that we're going to begin making some little short YouTube videos for kind of smaller training topics, instead of doing longer hour and a half long type trainings, so that we can kind of get those all together as a resource on YouTube. So if somebody says, oh, I remember they covered this in a training video, I don't quite remember, there it is. They can watch a minute video or something and get answers to their questions. But we would really like for folks to make suggestions on particular training topics that they would like to see covered. If there's any particular field that's confusing, or you'd like to know what it's for, or if you're seeing things in the catalog that you would like more clarity on or information, or web client issues. How do I do this in the web client? I don't know how to do that. Like one thing that I would like to see, for example, is how in the world do I delete a record? But now I know by default, if I have the only item on that record and I delete my holdings on the record will be deleted. But oops. I have not found a way, and if anybody has, you used to be able to go over here in this menu and find a way to delete the record. It would say delete record or undelete record. Do you know how to do that, Beth, or anybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to MARC Edit.
MARC Edit.
And now look at your action. Oh, well, see the delete button over there here next to save?
Oh, where am I looking? Oh, delete. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this will delete the whole record. So it's in the MARC Edit tab.
Yeah, so not very intuitive, but it's there.
It is there. Okay. Seems like it would make more sense maybe over in holdings maintenance, or not necessarily in the OPAC view, but there it is. Okay. See, folks, now we don't have to do a minute training on how to delete a record, because you all know how to do that, and I learned that right along with you. Right here, this delete tab right there. Okay, so with that, let me open it up, and if anybody has any training topics they'd like to suggest, or if anybody has any general cataloging questions they'd like to pose to the group, we got a little bit of time left in our meeting here, and so type away in the chat or unmute your mic. Let me look in the, oh, let's see, Marcia has a comment here. Sorry if I missed it, but when will the staff client no longer be available? When will we all need to be using the web version? Excellent question. John says when we upgrade to 3.2, which, do we have a tentative time frame for that? I know we were thinking like late fall, early winter. Is that still on the table, or?
Yes. Tentatively we were looking at November, December.
All right. So a good idea to jump into this before you absolutely have to, and then panicking because you can't find stuff. I know a lot of us, it was much easier to use the staff client, so we just continue to use the staff client, but it's going to be a whole lot easier if you jump into it earlier rather than later, and kind of get through some of these learning curve issues before you absolutely have to. Let's see. Jenny says, haven't been back to work to check, but can we or will we be able to do a copy hold? Marcia, Jenny, are you talking about from the staff side, or are you talking about from the patron side?
She's talking staff side, John. She indicated this in an email to me. I was unaware that copy holds were not working. So that's something that we're going to have to troubleshoot, because there shouldn't be anything preventing a copy hold, but it appears that you place the copy hold, but it doesn't stick with the copy. It goes on and fulfills it somewhere else. So anyway, we're going to be doing some testing and figuring out what's going on with the copy holds.
Okay, good question. I hadn't noticed anything in particular with that. I had noticed placing holds on local items and having them being fulfilled elsewhere. And I'm trying to remember if I submitted a SAGE ticket on that. I'm not sure. But stuff being pulled in from Hood River, for example, instead of selecting our local copy that was available.
Yeah, and I do remember seeing that ticket, John, and I'm trying to remember back whether that was a copy hold or a title hold that was not fulfilled correctly. But yeah, thanks for creating those tickets. We will get to that and figure out what's going on.
What would Beth have to do if it weren't for me throwing all of these things at her? My goodness. I'm just kidding, folks. Beth has so much to do. Great question. Thanks for positing that. Does anybody else have any more? John George, I remember we adjusted the weights to fix the issue. Okay, good. Do we have any more general cataloging issues or training topics? Anybody else have any? We do have some minutes left in our meeting before we all head to lunch.
Well, if you think of anything after the meeting goes, either send something out to the SAGE cataloging listserv or one of the mentors. We'd love to hear your suggestions.
Yeah, please make use of the cataloging list. Feel free to, don't be hesitant to send topics out to the cat list. We would like to see those. So I will have this recording posted later on this week, and we'll have the minutes up at some point as well. So we're going to get out about 4 minutes early if anybody doesn't have anything else. I thank you for taking time out of your busy day to spend some time with us here. And thanks for all you do, everybody. Thanks for being here. I'll see you in October.
Thanks, John.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Goodbye.